So now we're going to stitch the edges of each letter with a very basic sashiko stitch. And we want to take our embroidery floss from the end with the barcode or the larger label and just pull that tail, ease it out, and we want to take about 40 centimeters, which is roughly 2 pulls and a little bit extra. And then we're going to cut our thread. And now we're going to split the embroidery floss. And so if you look at the end, there are 6 strands, and we just want 3 of those strands. There are lots of methods for splitting the thread. I'm just going to show you one. So I hold these 2 separate in my left hand, and then with my right hand, my index finger, I just gently pull through, and I'm pulling with my left hand. And when you see it getting tangled in your right hand, I'll just stop and just straighten the thread. And then gently, gently ease those 2 open again. And again, when I feel, oops, it's getting a bit tangly, I'll straighten that thread and just keep doing this till the 2 are separated. Now, save that, and I'm going to thread my needle. So I've threaded my needle, and then you want one end of the thread to be 1/3 of the length, and then the other thread to be 2/3. So we take the 2/3 length, and we're going to create a little knot. So a really easy way to do this is to place that tail on your index finger. So place the tail on your index finger, place the needle on top, and you want to pinch the 2 together so they're quite firm. And then you want to take this end and wrap it round 3 times, 1, 2, 3, to make a little spiral. Oops. And then you want to pinch that spiral and gently pull your thread through the spiral. Like so. And as you get to the end, just pull, and you've created a little knot. It's a really lovely method. So let's get stitching. So I find the most comfortable way to stitch is to put my hand into the bag and my thumb on top, and then I place the needle into the bag and start stitching around the edge. So I push the needle out really close to the edge of the Liberty fabric. Then I'm going to create a tiny little stitch. Tiny stitch. It's probably about between 1 to 2 millimeters. And then I'm going to push my needle out again. So again, I'm about 2 millimeters along, and pull the thread out. Again, we're going to create a tiny stitch. Push the needle out. This is the relaxing bit. Don't worry about them being perfectly distant from each other. If the distance changes, honestly, it really doesn't matter. The Liberty fabric is so floral and busy that you won't even notice. This is about really relaxing and enjoying the moment. If your stitches are a bit too long or a bit too short, it's really fine. Because the letters are glued on, they're really secure anyway. This is just to ensure that the edges don't come up when you're using the bag or you're washing it. And just keep moving the bag in the fabric to a comfortable position for you. There are no rules, it's just whatever works for you. When you're doing the stitches, keeping the thread and the edge of the letter at a right angle is the easiest way to do it. So it doesn't matter how curvy the stitch is, just your stitch needs to be a right angle with the edge. When you get a tangle like that, pull it out again and then pull the thread through. I'm going to show you, the end has got a bit curly there. Sometimes that gets tangled up. So just take your scissors and snip that. My scissors. Here are my scissors. So just snip that end off when it gets curly. Cut a bit more off. Wow, look at that, we're done. So when your stitches meet, so you've done the full edge of the letter, we want to take the needle and push it through to the back. pull it through, and now I'm going to secure it. So you can secure right back to the start stitch, that way it's going to be really safe. So I will go back to my beginning stitch and I'm going to include that knot there. So I'm just putting my needle through the two. I'm going to wrap round twice and then put my nail on all those little stitches and twists, and then pull the needle through gently. And there you have created a knot. Super simple. I'm going to do a second one to be really secure, because especially with bags they get quite rough treatment once you're using them. So you want it to be really secure. Once, twice, and pull through. And there we go. So now I'm going to cut my tails off to about 1 centimetre. Don't cut them too short, because then it could all unravel and you'd be crying, oh my goodness. There. So you can stitch the whole letter and then do the securing. It's much neater on the back if you secure each row of stitches that you do and then start with a fresh knot. So I'm going to just do another little knot as we did earlier. Let's start with the centre. And curvy letters are more challenging than straight edge letters. So as we've done an O, we are well away. I'm going to show you, in the centre my stitches are much further apart. On the outer edge they were much closer together. So either is absolutely fine, and if you mix them all up it really doesn't matter. I find that when my mood changes, my stitch changes. So when I'm more anxious or more tense, then my stitches are tighter, and when I'm really super chilled, so as I'm stitching I'm becoming more and more relaxed. I think that's why my stitches are further apart. But really the important thing is that you enjoy the stitching and you feel relaxed. So when stitching your t-shirt, you want 3 strands of embroidery floss, and we're going to tie a tiny knot. You can do a quilter's knot or just a knot over your finger, whichever works for you best. There's lots of videos on the website if you need more. So our stitches are quite close together because we want to make sure that the edge is really well caught, so that when this is washed it doesn't all fray up. So my stitches are about 2 millimeters long and the gap is probably less than that, just over 1 millimeter. But this is the really relaxing bit of the stitching, of the making, not the stitching. So the idea is to get each stitch at right angles with the edge, whether you're going on a curve or you're on a straight line, just make sure it's at right angles. So you put your needle into the fabric, into the Tana lawn, and then you come out at a diagonal into the t-shirt itself, so you caught both fabrics and then pull through. Again, so you've got a right angle here, and then we've got the diagonal for the needle to come out. For the corners, you can do a diagonal stitch, like so, and then continue down the bottom edge. So the diagonal stitch on the corners will help the letter to stay really flat when it's laundered. Lovely, so when you get to the last stitch on your letter, you want to turn to the back of your work, and at the end of each letter you want to finish off and secure it. You don't want to have threads going between the letters, or it's going to cause issues with the stretchiness of the t-shirt, especially when you're putting it over your head and it can rip. But each letter will be fine secured on its own. So we want to try and catch that first thread on the first knot so that it's not going to pop out when there's pressure on the t-shirt being worn. So try to put your needle through the thread, and if you can't manage that, just pop it through the first stitch. Like so. And I'm going to create a little knot, so I put my thread round twice, once, twice, and hold that down with my left nail and then pull through. And I'm going to do a second securing knot just on the next stitch. Now that's going to be super secure. And then I want to cut the ends of the thread, probably about ½ centimetre. Not too close to the knot or it's going to unravel. And there we go, the first letter. So my stitches are quite close together. Even if the edges do come up a little bit when it's laundered, it's going to hold nicely in place. But you can do them closer to each other or further apart, whatever works for you. But remember, this is a super rustic look that we're going for, and from a distance this is going to look gorgeous. So don't worry about little imperfections, or if one stitch is shorter than the next, or maybe your gaps are slightly different on different sections of the letter. Honestly, it's going to look gorgeous.